got a picture that broke.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever seen this before?
I think so.
Okay. You may want to read just a little bit of it out loud.
Footprints. One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene he noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him.
I think this is a favorite of a lot of people, good old footprints. But in fact, it fits a word today, I think.
Yes, it does. Step by step?
Step by step, yeah. You may want to tell everybody what passage we're looking at in 1 Peter. We're skipping just a little bit as we've been moving through the book of 1 Peter.
We're 1 Peter chapter 2.
1 Peter 2, okay.
Verse 18.
Verse 18, yeah, we'll come back to some of those other passages later. And as a reminder, too, we've been kind of underlining certain words each time we've looked at it. It's a good way to study the Bible. You know, for example, we started off first with, what was the first word that we had? Scattered seeds.
Yes.
That we are scattered seeds, and yet each of them planted to grow. Last week, what was the word?
Redeemed.
Redeemed, yeah. We talked about how something that seemed useless was suddenly given purpose. Well, today, I think that step by step in your translation, I don't know what it is in my translation. You are looking at why don't you go ahead and start reading some of 1 Peter 2, starting at what verse?
18.
Verse 18, okay. Go ahead.
You who are servants, be good servants to your master, not just to good masters, but also to bad ones. What counts is that you put up with it for God's sake. When you're treated badly for no good reason, there's no particular virtue in accepting punishment that you well deserve. But if you're treated badly for good behavior and continue, in spite of it, to be a good servant, that is what counts with God.
Now let's stop right there, because here this passage even says slaves, and in my Greek it has something like household servants. And at first to us that sounds like, why would Peter be talking to servants? Well, back in that time, yes, there was slavery, unfortunately, with people being bound. But just about anybody who was doing work for anybody else was considered a servant. It could be a household worker, but it could also be somebody who was a shopkeeper. It could be somebody who was a doctor or taking care of people. Somebody who was caring in any way was considered a servant of
Serving others.
Serving others in some way. We would consider it workers. And right now, I think we're very cognizant, we're very aware of the frontline workers who are dedicating themselves, even in the face of a pandemic that's out here, but trying to take care of themselves, but also to care for others by serving themselves. That's partially what Peter is talking to. He says, you are still servants. You are not necessarily excused because you're a follower of Jesus from getting out of this, but in fact you now have a path in your life, and you're invited to see that you're serving as the one who was the servant to all of us, the one who was Jesus, as Jesus was. But then to this you were called. At the very end is what I have. To this you were called because, what do you have there?
This is the kind of life you've been invited into, the kind of life Christ lived. He suffered everything that came his way so you would know that it could be done, and also you know how to do it, step by step.
There's our word, step by step. We're footprints, that wonderful little poem talks about Jesus walking with us. Here we're invited to see it inverted, that while Jesus walks with us, we're invited to follow him step by step in how we serve. Not to serve in a way that is just that is just blindly obedient to just doing our job, but in fact to recognize that every service that we do can have fulfillment in Jesus himself. In fact, it talks a little bit later in the passage about how
He used his servant body to carry our sins to the cross, so that we could be rid of sin, free to live the right way. His wounds became your healing. You were lost sheep, with no idea what you were or where you were going. Now you're named and kept for good by the shepherd.
now you are named. Okay, I've got a clue for you. This Sunday we're going to be hearing how the shepherd calls us by name. And in fact, we're invited to hear our name being called, not just in a way of calling us into the fold and into heaven, but called through our vocations as to how we are to step by step. So make sure you underline step by step. You know, Kate, too, this also sets us up for some things that we're going to be hearing in weeks to come. All of us are gathered around that cross. Remember that cross that I'm
Yes,
sure you remember.
I remember.
You put all those feet and all those hands together in the cross, and I'm sure people will see it again and again. All of our feet are trying to follow Jesus, and all of our hands trying to serve Jesus. And in that we see the suffering servant. Well, in weeks to come, we'd like to take that as kind of the cornerstone of what our faith is about. And we'd like to invite everybody to send a picture of their family. Just do a selfie of their family, okay? And imagine themselves all sitting together in the pews in the church, and just take a picture on their couch and send the picture to, let's send it to familyofchristkearney@gmail.com. And we're going to put all those pictures around that cross and somehow be able to recognize what the church is about. So again, send your selfie, send your pictures to familyofchristkearney@gmail.com. Yep, you got it. But that'll show that we're all welcome in the neighborhood of what Christ has to give to us.
Amen.
Amen.